Do you want to really up your guacamole game? I know you do. You're like, I'm so bored of classic guacamole. I need a new guacamole recipe. Well, if that's the case, then I have the recipe for you. Today, I'm making a minty margarita guacamole. There is not tequila in it. Though I guess if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of tequila, but I'm making it sort of margarita-y by adding a tablespoon of orange juice and a half a teaspoon of orange zest to my classic guacamole recipe, which has lime juice and white onion and cilantro, replacing the cilantro with mint, but it's pretty amazing. And in our May issue of Martha Stewart Living, we have 4 variations. A classic one, the minty margarita, taco truck, which is like a little bit looser, one with pepitas, and Martha's favorite, which has hard-boiled chopped egg on top of it. Very interesting. So you're gonna need, actually it's only a tablespoon of that. It's 2 tablespoons of lime juice. These limes feel not so juicy. I know for sure I'm gonna need at least 2 of them. I could feel that they weren't gonna be, and they're pretty dry. If you look on the inside, you can see that they're not super juicy. They smell good. Half a lime gave me maybe a teaspoon of juice. Lame. This also gets some jalapeno, a 1/4 cup of jalapeno. And I'm not making our classic version, but if I were, I would also put in a 1/4 cup of white onion. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave the seeds in. So what makes this a margarita, or a minty margarita, is the mint. It replaces the cilantro in our basic version. So you need a half a cup of chopped mint. Here's my conundrum with herbs. You're supposed to wash them, and then you're supposed to dry them really well. It's really hard to dry herbs well enough that when you chop them, they don't get all bruised and like mushy and soggy and gross. You're supposed to wash them, but like a lot of the time I just don't. So I guess the lesson is buy organic herbs, so at least you feel slightly better about not washing them. Then this recipe, we're using 3 avocados. They should be ripe, but not completely mushy. I mean, obviously you don't want overripe avocados. My suggestion is buy avocados that are not ripe and then let them sit on your counter for a couple of days to ripen. And that way they will be perfectly ripe and they won't have a lot of bruises. Scoop out the avocado. When I was little, avocados were like super duper exotic, and I really had never had an avocado until I was probably like 5 or 6. And my aunt was from California, and she knew about avocados, and I used to go over to visit my cousin at her house, and she would serve us a half an avocado like this in the shell, and then fill the hole with vinaigrette, and then we would eat it with a spoon, and I thought it was like the most exotic thing in the world. Mash the avocados. Then you can add a tablespoon of orange juice and a half a teaspoon of orange zest, and then 2 tablespoons of lime juice. 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. I would be careful about this. I'm gonna add 1.5 because you just don't know how big your avocados are gonna be, so you don't want it overly salty. 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and you could always add more salt, you know that. Add your herbs and your jalapenos, and then finish mixing it all together. I don't like it to be too mashed, so once I add the herbs, if everything has been mashed, I can stir it together. Okay. Let's try it. I'll see if it needs more salt, and I'll tell you. Just a little. I think it's pretty good. Just a hint of orange zest coming through, which is really nice. And I'm telling you, it really does make it taste like a margarita. You're not going to believe it. Enjoy.